While there are many things that go into designing a beautiful space, a few missteps can make a room feel completely off. From incorrect sized rugs to not having multiple light sources, here are the 9 biggest interior design mistakes that people make and how you can fix them. As I've said in many of my videos, you should never rely only on overhead lighting, as it is too harsh and creates unflattering shadows. You might not be aware that there are actually 3 types of lighting, including ambient, task, and accent lighting. You should aim to layer all these types of lighting in your space and at a minimum have 2 of these lighting types. You may choose to have a few table lamps, floor lamps, and wall sconces in addition to your overhead light source. Another important thing is light temperature. Ideally, you want warm white bulbs between 2700 and 3500 Kelvin for spaces where you relax, or cool white bulbs around 4000 Kelvin for workspaces like a home office. Don't make the mistake of buying daylight bulbs for the bedroom, as it will make it feel sterile or cold instead of warm and cozy. For an even cozier feel, opt for lamps with a warm fabric shade or glass shades to help diffuse light. Objects under a diffuse light will generally look more flattering than a direct light, which is a technique commonly found in photography and filmmaking. As an additional tip, have dimmers where possible, so you can change the ambience of your room, especially in the evening when you want to wind down. If you haven't seen my full video on how to light a space, I highly recommend you check that out. Don't get a rug that is too small, otherwise your room may feel disjointed and imbalanced. Many people make this mistake as rugs are very expensive and it is a big commitment to buy such a large one. You should always be on the lookout for a rug that is big enough to fit all of your furniture on top of it. For example, if you're looking for a dining table rug, get one that is big enough that you can pull all your chairs out away from the table without their legs falling off the rug. For your living area, you can either have all your sofas and chairs to sit fully on top of your rug, or place only the 2 front legs of your sofa and armchairs on the rug to ground the space. A good rule of thumb is to have your rug at least 4 inches wider on each side of the sofa. Whatever you do, don't fall into the trap of buying a 4x6 rug for your living room. These rugs are meant to be used as an accent or put in a smaller space like a small bedroom with a twin or double-sized bed. It is better to buy a larger rug from a cheaper brand than an expensive one that doesn't fit the space. Having curtains that are too short for your windows is like wearing pants that are too small. It is an extremely obvious mistake, can make your windows look smaller, and decrease the sense of space in your room. People make this mistake because they think that they're going to save a bit of time and money by buying curtains that are slightly too short, but it is always better to buy ones that are too long and then hem them to the right length. Your curtains should either be kiss length where they brush the floor, puddle length where a bit of fabric pulls onto the ground, or floating where they're just an inch or less off the ground. Don't try to compensate for too short curtains by lowering your curtain rods. You want your curtain rods to be mounted high to create the illusion of high ceilings and large windows. Have them around half to 2/3 between the top of your window frame to the ceiling or molding, and extend them at least 4 to 6 inches beyond your window frame if possible, to give the illusion of a wider space and to maximize the amount of light into your space when your curtains are drawn open. Another mistake is having curtain panels that are not wide enough. The standard is to have a curtain panel that is 1.5 to 2 times the width of your windows, so that your curtains have a gathered, luxurious appearance. You can check out my video on 5 rules for hanging curtains for more details on how to do them right. You always have to relate shape to space so that your room feels cohesive and harmonious. That is why a long thin vertical artwork will probably look bizarre on a long horizontal stretch of wall, and a curved desk would look out of place up against a flat wall. As you're decorating, ask yourself whether the shape of your decor piece or furniture complements the shape of the place it is going in. If it doesn't, you should probably put it somewhere else. Proportion is an important design principle that refers to the relationship between the size of various elements in a room. You don't want to have everything in the same size, or anything that is too big or too small. For example, a tiny bedside table with a large bulky table lamp on top would probably look off. As you're decorating your space, make sure visual weight is balanced. Scan your room from bottom to top and side to side to see if anything feels out of place or disproportionate. One trick I came across from another designer is to think of your space like a city and fill it with a combination of height and proportions. You may need to rearrange your furniture to distribute it more evenly or even remove excess items if the room feels crowded. Similarly, you should always measure your room before making any purchase. Take note of the dimensions and use them to guide your purchase. Buying furniture that is too big or too small is often one of the biggest but easy to solve mistakes. So do the measurements before committing to avoid regret. When it comes to planning our home projects, we always use a furnishing template that allows us to save items we come across online or offline, categorize them by room, check the status of our orders, and also keep track of how much we've spent. Everything is presented neatly in the dashboard so we can make better decisions on what to purchase for our home. We're also offering this as a bundle with our online shopping list database. As a decorator, I understand how difficult and overwhelming it can be shopping for your home. We've included over 200 stores, from big box to small independent makers, so that no matter what, you can find what you need to decorate your home and feel confident about your purchases. If you're moving into a new home or in the process of furnishing or renovating, I highly recommend you check these out. Do you design your space based on your personality and what you like, or do you simply choose things because they're trending on TikTok and Instagram? While design trends can be a really fun way to renew a space, trends rapidly come and go on social media, and it is impossible to keep up with them. Be selective about the trends you choose to follow, and remember that it is okay to forego them in favor of more timeless design choices. We often make the mistake of designing our space based on the opinions of other people, rather than in a way that truly reflects our own style. Stop following fads and start making choices based on your personal preference to create a space that you'll love for years to come. Just because you have invested into an artwork doesn't mean that it will look good in your space. You need to make sure that it is the right size and has been hung correctly. Most of the time, people buy artworks that are too small for the space they're trying to fill. You should always try to source pieces that are half to 2/3 the length of the furniture they're going to be hung above. If in doubt, it is always safer to go bigger. Multiple smaller pieces can also be placed together as a gallery wall, instead of a single big piece. As for hanging art, many people often put it too high, especially when hung above furniture pieces. You want the furniture and the artwork to relate to each other and be a cohesive unit, not randomly floating in space. The bottom of the frame should be roughly 8 to 10 inches above the furniture piece. If it's going on a blank wall, the center of the piece should be at eye level, which is roughly 60 inches off the floor. You can also use this rule when hanging art above a furniture. Remember that these measurements are just starting points, so always use the eye test and adjust them accordingly. Before you permanently hang a piece, I suggest using a masking tape to visualize how it will look before you commit to it. If your home feels hectic, clutter is probably to blame. This is the #1 enemy of a well-styled interior. The Marie Kondo method usually works quite well in these situations. Ask yourself if the item sparks joy, and if not, consider throwing it away or donating it. Overstyling is another reason why your home may feel cluttered. You don't have to buy every pretty home decor you come across on TikTok or Instagram. Instead, look for pieces that you actually need or have a designated spot in mind before you purchase something. It may be tempting to buy and put everything out on display, but knowing how to edit is the key to a beautiful space. Another thing to note is open storage spaces. These are usually the culprit of having everything out on display, whether that is in the kitchen, bathroom, or living room. Consider having some closed storage space or storage baskets in every room to hide away unattractive items like TV remotes, shoes, appliances, or beauty products. There's nothing wrong with having a matching armchair, but when everything in a room matches, it ends up looking like a showroom and feels very underwhelming. All of the most beautiful spaces are ones that have a character or personality. It is rarely cookie cutter, which is what a matching furniture set gives. It doesn't have to be expensive either. You can mix furniture and decor from various price points, or even look into flea markets or Facebook Marketplace for beautiful secondhand pieces. The key is to avoid buying everything from a single big box store, or even worse, everything from a single line of furniture. Similarly, try to avoid generic artworks and word art that you often see in big box stores. They instantly cheapen a space, are often tacky, and don't resonate with anyone. There are many places where you can buy unique and affordable artworks, which I'll link down in the description below. By mixing texture, shape, color, and even style, you can create a much more elevated space that looks thoughtfully curated and well designed. Hopefully this video has helped you identify some of the most common design and decorating mistakes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.